What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to episode number 261 of the VK Bros, with Jason and Alex Von Cannell, as usual, broadcasting not so live on a beautiful Friday morning, the 1st of August 2025. How are you going this week, Alex?
I'm a little hungover.
Oh,
I went and saw Mark Norman last night.
Oh, yeah?
in Brisbane. What was hilarious, I got a phone call from a friend as I'm sitting down, and I bounced it, and then they tried to call me back, and I bounced it again, and I texted back and said, "Hey man, I'm at a comedy show." And he's like, "Yeah, turn around." And he was behind me.
Mad.
And he left halfway through the show. He hated it. And also, the people sitting next to me on this side, there was like a younger girl, maybe she brought her dad. Her dad looked like a very conservative Middle Eastern man. And dude, he was rolling his eyes. So he did not laugh once.
Yeah.
The amount of sighs.
Mark Norman is not the comedy for those people.
No. And I was at the gym this morning talking about it. No one had heard of him.
Really?
I said he's been on Rogan like 15 times.
Yeah, but all these people that you're talking to at the gym don't listen to Rogan either, because he's a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist.
But sure, it just goes to show how the algorithm works. Like, he'd be one of the top 10 comedians in the world right now.
Yep.
He's doing a world tour, and no one's heard of him. He's all over the internet. He's got millions and millions of views on the internet. It just, I found it really interesting. I had a great time. I thought it was hilarious. The guy that he had
opening for him.
Opening was pretty ordinary.
Yep.
But I also like that venue, the convention centre in Brisbane, so it's really easy. I can take the ferry there. There's a bar downstairs, and apparently, did booze prices go down? So it felt cheaper last night. It felt cheaper, and then I was talking to a mate this morning who said that there's been a cost of living change.
Really? Okay.
And I couldn't find. I searched for it. I couldn't find it.
Yeah, right.
But it felt cheaper. I was buying like pints, big pints, like costing like $23 or something, which I thought was okay. Okay.
Isn't that crazy? That's the state of affairs. That $23 seems okay for a pint of beer.
Well, I have a story about this following on from our discussion last week about me worrying about the youths and, them protecting this racket. Anyway, I got to have another chat with him this morning.
Yep.
And he had more time to think about it, and he kind of came around, not to the speed thing in particular, but I cited a bunch of examples where I got him to use his logic to come up with solutions that we face as society. And the example that I'm about to show is, I'm like, after I said, look, I think you're right. You use logic. It makes total sense. Do you think that's what our government's going to do? And he was like, no, he doesn't know what they're going to do. And when I told him, it's sort of starting to build a bit of a picture.
Okay.
So I would like to show this video. It's from ABC.
You can. I was just going to say, this is really interesting because Alex and I rolled into the show this morning not really knowing what each other wanted to talk about, but both of these subjects will be relevant. So we'll do your thing first with the ABC video, but then just as a bit of a precursor for listeners, I'm going to be talking about some of the things that the Queensland Liberal government has been up to, which are actually pointing in the right direction. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. And I think that you guys, particularly listeners, long-time listeners of the show, you'll find this stuff really interesting. So stay tuned. So
I'm going to play this throughout. I might pause it and we can discuss bits as it goes. But I listened to this in the car the other day and I was literally like smashing my steering wheel. So this is directly from ABC News In Depth of the YouTube channel. It's just one segment from it.
Cool.
Despite Australia's continued
success
in curbing smoking rates, the illegal tobacco trade is growing. Experts are warning it'll take big fines and a new approach from the federal and state governments to stub out the black market. Adelaide Miller reports.
Just a short walk from John Jensen's caravan park are multiple tobacconists selling illicit cigarettes.
I walk in the shop, I ask for a box of red, and that's what I get. It's in and out. No mucking around.
Great service.
People have been buying them for 6 years after realising how much cheaper they are compared to over-the-counter cigarettes.
Everyone I know is doing it. Everyone I know that smokes is buying illicit tobacco because of the price.
And the price is being pumped up by tax, as high as 70%. Some say that's fueling the black market. In 2023, it was estimated illicit cigarettes made up 28% of the total tobacco trade,
Rookie numbers, got to get those numbers up.
contributing to a decline in government revenue, which has plunged from $16.3 billion in 2019 to $7.4 billion. And it's causing mixed messages from politicians.
But I wonder whether we need to look more closely at the
this
federal government's massive excise on tobacco. The massive increase has exploded the illicit tobacco marketplace.
I respectfully disagree with Chris. I don't think the answer here is to make cigarettes cheaper for people. I think the answer here is to get better at...
Okay. I find this so entertaining because I think one of the things that we maybe covered last week, or I can't remember if it was just from another conversation that I had with a friend of mine, but the absolute basic question that not enough people ask when it comes to receiving information from anyone, particularly authority figures, is who benefits from me believing what this person has to say?
Totally.
So, do I think it's a coincidence that the current Labor Treasurer doesn't think it's a good idea to reduce the taxation on cigarettes? No. Oh, and my camera's just dipped out, so let's do the dance. Hey, and I'm back. I'm back on my other camera.
Yeah, totally. And it just comes down to incentives.
Yeah.
Incentives.
Now,
I'm
in
glad
saying that as well, because you have to think about it from Chris Minns' perspective. So the tobacco excise gets paid directly into the federal government's coffers. Where does Chris Minns get his money from? GST, which goes to the states. So he wants more purchases to happen because 10% of each purchase goes into his coffers.
Yeah.
So you got these two Labor idiots who are out there literally on opposite sides of an argument, but it's all based on their own self-interest.
100%. Well spotted.
Yeah.
But it gets worse.
Of course it does. Let's go.
Compliance.
Professor Becky Freeman says if the government...
I don't think the answer here is to make cigarettes cheaper for people. I think the answer here is to get better at compliance.
Professor Becky Freeman says if the government were to lower the tobacco excise, it would send the wrong message.
So the only thing you would be doing is rewarding the very retailers who had flouted the law by allowing them to legally sell cheap cigarettes.
Huh?
Would you though? Does that make sense to you?
No, that makes zero sense. The only thing that you would be doing is making it less of a market to sell illicit cigarettes, which is what the whole point of this story is about. The reality is, there is a market available because of government taxation. That's the story.
Only reason. Just so everyone knows, the only reason why black market cigarettes exist is because of the tax.
Correct. Every cigarette is a killer.
If there was no tax, you'd be selling them for what these black market ones are sold for.
Correct.
Which is what I've been told is $9 instead of $60.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So let's keep listening.
Hold on. Can you go back? Where's this chick from? What's she an expert in?
Better at compliance.
Professor Becky Freeman says if the government were to lower the tobacco excise, it would send the wrong message.
Professor of what?
Professor.
She's just Professor Becky.
Yeah. PBEC for short.
Right.
So the only thing you would be doing is rewarding the very retailers who had flouted the law by allowing them to legally sell cheap cigarettes. We would make smoking more appealing to more people, and we'd be...
Reducing the taxation on cigarettes does not increase the profit margin in the cigarettes. All it does...
No, I don't think that's what she's saying.
But she's saying that if you reduce the taxation, you're rewarding the retailers who are selling the dodgy cigarettes. You're actually not. How does it reward that retailer?
No, because they're, in her mind, they will be selling more cigarettes legally, and therefore they're winning. So you're kind of right.
But they're also currently selling illegal cigarettes with probably a higher profit margin in them.
Yeah.
Because there's no taxation.
Yeah.
So she's wrong. She's an idiot. And she's a professor in
undermining
stupidity.
all the public health gains we have made.
She says there are more effective ways the government can target the black market.
Just on this, okay, so I don't smoke,
Mm-hmm.
but if I had the choice to spending $60 on a pack of cigarettes with the picture of a dead guy on it,
Yeah.
or $9 with lovely gold leaf writing on it,
Regal colours and...
right?
Do you know what we should
Which one
do?
you choose?
Also, carrying on from our conversation last week, why don't we paint images of car crash victims onto cars so that when you go and buy a car...
Jason, don't give them any ideas.
market.
The number one thing you should be doing is reducing the number of outlets that sell it. Make your enforcement job a little easier for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
So,
You know,
okay.
you know what we could do? Do you know how we could do that? You could ban all independently owned tobacconists, and you could put them all under the umbrella of Coles or Woolworths, because it'll be so much easier for the government when they only have to deal with one company. Just like they've done with everything else.
At least it's easier to go tax-free when there's no one at the counter to...
Yeah.
Just don't scan it.
Yeah, I want a whole carton of these brown onions.
Yeah.
The government says it spent $350 million tackling the black market over the past 2 years and appointed an illicit tobacco and e-cigarette commissioner to work.
Another commission. They've spent $300 million over 2 years, $150 million a year, right? Okay, $150 million a year industry has just been built to tackle this thing that we all know what the fix is. It's obvious.
Yeah.
Work with all levels of government to coordinate national policies.
This is mafia
Tobacco laws have just come into effect in New South Wales and Victoria, requiring retailers and wholesalers to hold a licence to sell tobacco.
A license? Now you need... Okay, so everyone that was complying before, so everyone that did the right thing, now has to buy a license.
Can we also just point out the fact that it's in New South Wales and Victoria, apart from Canberra, the two gayest states in the country, and it hasn't been brought in Canberra. So I'm sure all the politicians are buying their illicit cigarettes.
They're the last two states to introduce this legislation, and suppliers have until October and February to apply for a permit. But experts say more needs to be done.
Pause it.
Pause it. More needs to be done. What if fucking morons?
Are you going to apply for a permit to sell illicit cigarettes, Alex? Hey, do you know what this is going to work as well as?
I actually decided I'm going to opt out of the license for selling.
Yeah, so I don't want this license to sell the legal ones. I'm just going to opt out and just continue to sell the illegal ones. Thank you. This is exactly the same as you would have seen. They're doing a fucking machete buyback scheme in Victoria at the moment. They've got machete amnesty bins now. So all of, it's now going to be illegal to own a machete without a permit. It's gun control all over again. So all the law-abiding people will put their machetes in a bin, which will no doubt be raided by the people who don't obey the law, and they'll have a treasure trove of machetes to be able to use for machete-based violence.
Look at all these machetes we have.
To enable that scheme with the ability to immediately shut down shops that you find selling, to issue massive fines not only to the business owner, but to the landlord who owns that property and leases out that building. And then finally, you should be using this licensing scheme to reduce...
So hold on, this lady, this professor, wants the landlord to be fined for facilitating...
This is communism.
So just so you know, my landlord of my commercial property has no right to be within my business.
Correct.
There is no interest. They have zero interest in what happens within the business. Okay. The only thing they ask of me is to have it insured. Every year I have to provide my insurance stuff to say that the thing is insured. But that is none of their business.
Absolutely.
You are renting space.
Yeah.
This crazy lady wants the landlord who's leasing the property out to someone to use it for business to be held responsible.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's insanity. But again, this goes back to socialism and communism. It's just putting in controls, and the assumption is that the landowner has more money, so you can fine them more. But totally. I wanted to say this. So I've just looked this chick up, Professor Becky Freeman. So from the University of Sydney, I'm a member of the Prevention Research Collaboration with 25 years of experience working in the tobacco control field, and I'm well versed in program and policy best practice. Now, so she is an expert, right?
Yeah.
They never introduced her as an expert. This is why
I also find it interesting that it's called tobacco control.
Yes, now this is what I find even more interesting. Listen to this. My primary research interests include tobacco control, how online and social media influence public health, and the commercial determinants of health. I'm an established authority on the potential of the internet to circumvent tobacco advertising bans and have pioneered research methods in tracking and analysing online social media content.
Wow.
So why are those two things linked together, Alex?
Well, this is digital ID.
She's just an e-safety commissioner.
Yeah,
in a different field.
What is it? The 70th? No, what's the brigade in
77th Brigade out of the UK.
77th Brigade in the UK.
Interesting character.
Well, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
outlets.
Back in country Victoria, Mr. Jensen says he wants to quit smoking.
No, he doesn't.
I'd love to give up the cigarettes.
But they're too cheap.
I can't afford the nicotine replacement therapy that goes with.
He's calling on the government to make replacement therapies more accessible, something the health minister says is already subsidised.
If they're serious about getting us to quit smoking, make quit smoking products cheaper.
Until then, he says he's trapped in a habit he can't afford to break.
Pause it.
That's it. Anyway.
Okay. So again, on that note too, because that is this stupid emotional appeal, right? The real answer is this. If you really want people to quit cigarettes because they're bad for you and it causes an impost on the health system, ban cigarettes. That's the real answer, right? Then you don't have... Well, but again, like when you're looking at it from a health perspective, which is the emotional call to action about that last little end bit of, oh, I would like to quit, but the alternative nicotine sources are too expensive. That's the emotional call to action. But the justification for the taxation is because they want to discourage people from using cigarettes, right? Because they're bad for you. So realistically, like, you have to remember, the government just banned vapes.
I have to stop you there, because if you think about I think you have brought old propaganda to this new propaganda video. They never ever really said in this video that they want to curb smoking.
No, they don't. I'm not saying that this is what I believe. I'm saying that as a government, if you're trying to use health as the justification behind the...
But they won't in this. That's my point. In this video, they're not even saying that anymore. It is, where's my money? That's what the whole video was.
Yeah.
Where's my money?
Yeah,
so they're not even hiding it anymore.
Yeah, right,
it's not about health. It's where's my fucking money,
Where's my fucking money, dog?
Where's my money? And it was funny because on a little side note, I was watching Question Time before I got here.
Yep.
And there was a question asked about of the Minister of Climate Change and Energy, because those two things are the same.
Lol.
What was the retail cost of energy from when Labor came into what it is now?
Yeah.
Chris Bowen gets up and he cites these really low numbers, $300 to $100. It basically picked in all these different states. And then Susan Ley gets up and says, that's not the retail price. That's the wholesale price. And I was like, I didn't know that the wholesale price had gone down. I didn't know that. So I was trying to find it.
You wouldn't think it, would you?
I couldn't really find that information, by the way.
Right.
But on the government energy page, what I found really interesting, the very top line, the first thing you could click on to give information was compliance and enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Jason made a reference to it, and it kind of got brushed over, but I want to bring it back to it. This is the government is essentially a mafia cartel.
100%.
That gets to do the stuff that mafia mob bosses did, and we're all supposed to think, because it's the government, it's okay.
Yeah.
That whole video, which is state-funded, ABC video...
Using your taxpayer dollars.
Did not even try to make it about health, except for this sad guy.
It was the dude who made it about health at the end.
Yeah, hey guys, can we talk about my health? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, the money.
No, give me my fucking money.
We've all seen movies, like gangster movies.
Mm-hmm.
What do? They go to the shop. Hey, mate, if you want protection, you got to pay me.
That's
I'm
right.
coming in here every week, and I'm going to get my money. Otherwise, you're not going to have protection. What's just happened now? Hey, you're making money that we're not making money on. I'm going to fine you. I'm going to come in.
Which is exactly the reason.
$150 million a year
Yep.
to enforce an enforcer, which is a role that is played like it's a heavy.
Yeah, like usually by Vinnie Jones.
Right? He plays an enforcer. We call it enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So it is literally a criminal cartel.
Correct. And they said the numbers right off the top. It cost them $9 billion in revenue over that period.
Mm-hmm.
They want their money. But this is getting back to what I was saying before about the vapes. Why do you think they banned vapes and not cigarettes? Because vapes weren't taxed like cigarettes were. So they wanted to remove the alternative product that you could buy for cheaper that literally cuts into their earnings.
But what I also found interesting too is they said, oh, the nicotine products, the safety products, they're subsidised already. And this guy's like, yeah, they're still too expensive. Mm-hmm. And this is what I keep banging on about freedom.
Yeah.
Free markets would make, a Nicorette bloody mint or whatever.
Yeah.
Probably $5.
Mm-hmm.
But the government's got to get my cut. You got to kick it up to the big guy,
yep.
Right? And the only reason why I brought this up.
I love this concept, by the way. It's great. This is the stuff that young people need to hear.
For sure. I challenged my friend this morning to do a dive. I said they've got like a wheel that we sometimes use for like conditioning. You spin the wheel and you write all these exercises on it.
Mm-hmm.
I said write a bunch of government departments on there, or pick a subject that the government controls, spin it,
mm-hmm.
investigate it, and you'll find the same model.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Jason talks about it all the time. Oh, and you and I both posted some of that Kerry Packer stuff, famous old speech about him avoiding tax. And one of the things that he kind of gets glossed over for, they don't focus on this part of his speech was, since I was a boy, you've probably introduced 10,000 laws.
Yep.
And I don't think the country's got any better.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an idea. How about for every law you bring in, you repeal an old one?
Correct.
Now, why are we okay with... Oh, and every time a new law is introduced, you are taking away someone's freedom.
Yep, absolutely.
When you say the safety thing about the reason why I wanted to derail that,
mm-hmm.
the more I thought like that too. When I used to... And look, I know that smoking's not that good for you. But I'm also now far more... I think freedom is more important.
I totally agree. Yeah. I wasn't saying that because I agree with it. I was trying to say it as if I'm the government marketing to people, and as everything has been marketed to us over the last 10 years, it's all been about for our safety. So like the online censorship stuff, won't somebody think of the children? The e-cigarette ban, it's because the TGA has no proof that they're safe or effective. Like it's all been COVID, all marketed towards you. We are taking your rights away from you for your safety because we care about you. Like that.
And at the end of the day, it's not... We need to change this paradigm in which we live in.
Correct.
Especially here in Australia. Okay, Mark Norman made a joke about it last night, and I loved this. So my mate that I went with he's a conservative guy, but he's not as red-pilled as what I am. Mark Norman goes, "You guys love rules here. Like you gave away your guns, you gave away this, and you kind of just..." He goes, "I thought you were criminals, like as in like convicts, but we're jailers. Like we love the laws that are like with that safety blanket of the rules that we don't even notice how many more are coming in."
Correct.
And this is just the perfect example of like, for me, being a free market guy, seeing businesses thriving, selling $9 durries instead of $60 durries, I think is a testament to how strong the free market and the will of the people and the will of the intermediaries to get a product to the people.
Okay,
I find that fascinating.
Can we focus on this for a second? Because think about it from a free markets perspective. You've got retailers who've removed the government from the retailer client experience.
Yeah.
They are making way more money, and the client is getting a better product for a cheaper price.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, right?
A better experience. So literally in every metric possible is superior.
It's better, correct.
With the only difference being government intervention.
Now I want to talk about another experience that I've had recently. I've got young children. They love McDonald's, right? I know it's poison. Shut the fuck up. Every parent gives their kids Maccas from time to time. But what I have found really, really interesting is back 10 years ago, if you were going to apply for a job, if you had McDonald's on your resume, that was like a massive green tick for an employer. Because McDonald's was extremely well known for having amazing training systems. So you knew if someone worked for Macca's for a certain period of time, they were good at following systems, they were coachable. Like, there was a lot of good things that came out of McDonald's because of the processes they had in place. The last 2 times I've been to McDonald's, and this is 2 separate McDonald's because there's so many of them everywhere, the experience has been absolutely terrible. And it's the absolute basics that used to make Macca's great. So, for an example, you have to order yourself on a screen now because there's no one at the front counter to serve you. That is a direct result of the increase in the minimum wage. So, again, when you think about it, with all the propaganda we've been given from government about, to help with cost of living, we need to raise the minimum wage. I want young people to understand this. My bad experience at Macca's is a direct result of the raise to the minimum wage. But it gets way worse than that. Because not only does it mean I have to work at Macca's now just to get food, same as you have to work at Coles or Woolworths to check your own groceries out at the kiosks on the way out, which again is a direct result of the raise to the minimum wage. But you have to think about this. The food took forever. Because normally when you've got people on the front counter, when there's no one to serve at the front counter, they go out to the back and they help cook things. It speeds the process up.
Yeah, I witnessed this when I was at McDonald's too. There was a lot of orders that were like people had been missed or skipped or... Yeah, interesting. Yeah,
right? Okay. So I'm trying to sit there with 2 young children who don't want to sit around for very long. Both times the orders took half an hour. Like, this is supposed to be, quote, fast food. That ain't fast.
Yeah.
Now...
And it ain't cheap.
It ain't cheap anymore either. It used to be fast and cheap. And it ain't cheap anymore. But it's even worse than that. Because we were forced to sit inside this McDonald's for half an hour waiting for this food. The whole place was filthy. Every table had rubbish all over it, had not been wiped down. Like, the absolute basic things that used to make McDonald's such a great business are gone now. And all of this is the direct result of the increase in the minimum wage, which has made it too expensive to employ young people. And here's the next part of that. As a young person, one of the key frustrations that young job seekers have, this is the thing that you hear all the time. I applied for this job, and they said that I sounded great, but I had no experience. How the hell am I supposed to get experience in the job if they're not going to hire people of my age? Right? You would have heard that a million times in your working life. Minimum wage jobs are supposed to be for minimum experienced people. They're supposed to be for 16-year-olds who want a part-time job from school. They're supposed to be for university students who are literally studying to get a degree and expertise in a subject matter so that they can get off the minimum wage job and up into a big boy adult job which pays accordingly. Minimum wage jobs are not supposed to be where you sit and work forever. They're a stepping stone for the young and inexperienced people to build some skills up and then move up in life.
The way I translate this is, as a kid, would you rather a job at $10 an hour or no job at $25 an hour?
Correct. And so I talk about this with my wife a lot, right? So, look, we were fortunate. We grew up in a small business family. Our parents owned a pizza shop for 30 years, so we got to work within that business when we were really young, and we learnt so much of our work ethic from literally working in the business with our parents all the time. We saw what it took, and again, it's essentially child labour. That was the joke, because they essentially got free labour from their kids. But it's not a coincidence that Alex and I went on to be quite successful in whatever workplace we worked in because we had a work ethic. We had skills that kids the same age did not have because we were able to obtain those skills through our parents' small business. So I think about it all the time. I run a gardening business. People ask me all the time, why don't you hire staff? Because you could get more work done and make more money and etc., etc. The reality is, you cannot hire staff in this business anymore and make enough money to cover their wages without pissing off your client base because you have to charge them too much. They are too expensive. But it would be great if I could have 16-year-old kids from the local area who are like, you know what, school's not really for me. I'm not interested in going to university. I might do a trade down the track, but I'm just not sure what I want to do. I need something to do and I want to learn a skill set. Great, come work with me. I'll pay you $10 an hour. So, which is nothing, right? But they're living at home. I'll only expect $10 an hour worth of production out of them as well. And this is the other problem with the minimum wage. If the minimum wage is $25 an hour, you need to be doing $25 an hour shit. And most kids with no skills can't do that. So when it comes up between you, the 17-year-old school leaver, and the 25-year-old, you know, who's just been sort of milling around a little bit, well, the 25-year-old's going to get the job every single time because at least they've got some skills and life experience that you don't have. So that minimum wage thing literally removes opportunities from you young people who are now out there screaming at the top of your lungs that cost of living's too high and the economic deck has been stacked against you. But the problem is you're waiting for the government to fix it for you. They are the problem.
Yeah.
And, okay, this will segue. Are you done on...
Yeah, I'm done with it.
Okay. This is the perfect segue into what I wanted to talk about. Because for the next however many minutes, I'm going to... And our parents, can you put... I know a lot of you listen to the show in the car with your children, so please apply some earmuffs in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Because I'm about to suck David Crisafulli's dick. I'm gonna suck his dick. Because I don't think that you guys realise the shit that's happening up in Queensland. It's all going in the right direction. And I'm not going to say all, but 95% of the things are going in the right direction. And
I actually haven't heard this, so I'm interested.
Okay. And you know what? I was going to send through a whole bunch of resources and stuff like that, but there's so much stuff to go through. You'll be able to look these things up yourself if you're interested in actually confirming them. But here's the thing that I want to say, especially to young people. The reason why it's important to be politically active is because you are essentially being psyoped every single day into selling out your own futures. That's the psyop. And it's on everything. And it's very complex and very deep-seated, but essentially a whole range of different subjects all go together that results in you being guilty for apparent privileges that you don't actually enjoy at all, so that you'll be willing to give up your quality of living, and you think it's to help someone else. The person it helps is the rich people at the top who are lobbying to government to pull these strings on their behalf, not on yours. But David Crisafulli is actually doing some amazing work in Queensland pushing back against these globalist agendas. And the reason why I want to specify it's David Crisafulli, because the Queensland state Liberal government is completely different from the federal Liberals, who I believe are basically the Labor Party.
Yep.
Fuck the federal Libs. Fuck them. They are useless. They're completely different to the absolutely inept Liberal Party in Victoria. The reason why Dan Andrews kept getting elected was not because Dan Andrews was great, it's because the Liberals were worse. They are completely irrelevant in that state, to that state's detriment, right? And shout out to, ironically, we have heaps of people who listen to the show from Victoria. So shout out to you guys. This goes out to you, this next segment that we're about to talk about, because the reality is, this shows you that we can turn things around. There's a lot of doom and gloom out there in the marketplace of ideas at the moment. But if you do different things, you can turn some things around. So I want to talk about some of the things that the Crisafulli government has done in the short period of time, because it's only been, 6 or 8 months since they took office?
Yeah, something like that,
on some of the key subjects that we discuss here on this show. So I'm going to start with renewable energy. So we know The main reason for the price increases that we're experiencing in Australia about our energy has been the net zero transition, because we are spending hundreds of billions of dollars to try to transition from the cheapest, most reliable form of energy, which was coal, which we have in abundance in Australia, towards these renewable energy projects, which again, it is the whole and sole purpose of this transition is to enrich billionaires who are invested in these projects at your expense. That's the real goal. Right? So, what has David Crisafulli done since taking office? He scrapped Queensland's renewable energy target. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did know that. Yeah.
Okay. So, Labor had put in place that they wanted to be at net zero by 2050, and they wanted to have removed any coal plants out of the system by 2035. David Crisafulli's government has committed to being net zero by 2050, but they have removed the renewable energy target. In other words, they've removed the percentage of the mix that has to be from renewables. Because net zero is net zero. If your environment absorbs more carbon dioxide than your energy production produces, you're at net zero, right?
Yeah,
but that's real science, not pseudoscience.
That I don't actually think that's technically true either. I think the net zero in the word is the scam.
Yeah.
It's net zero means if you put a price on carbon, and we know that there is a extremely well-funded government agency federally that's to decide this.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't decided on a number. They get paid $200 million a year. They have 400 staff.
Yep.
Then you get the big polluters to pay tax on the pollution, and you offset that with the credits made by greener or non-carbon emitting businesses.
Yep.
And you can call yourself net zero. So if you had 10 units, of carbon, as long as you've paid tax on the 10 units to the value of 10 units,
mm-hmm.
then you are essentially net zero. You're not zero emissions.
Correct.
You're net zero.
It's an accounting tool, essentially.
It's an accounting
It's numbers
trick.
on a spreadsheet. Yeah, absolutely. And again, like, this will all come down to putting money in the pockets of billionaires. So you guys like your Twiggy Forrests and
Mike Cannon-Brookes.
Like, because the government
who just fired a whole bunch of staff so he could and replace them with AI, and he just got himself a private jet, and he pulled out of that $200 million deal with Twiggy Forrest. So
yeah,
and he's your green hero.
Exactly. All right. So okay, so we scrapped the renewable energy targets. They've extended the life of the state's coal plants. So one of them has been extended for an additional 3 years. One of them they've committed to extending it far beyond 2035 at this point. They've approved 3 new gas generators to use natural gas as backup for power. They are still looking to incorporate wind and solar into the energy mix. So again, we're all for this, right? We are not anti-renewables.
Yeah.
We are the sensible usage of all of the energy mix that we have available to us in ways that make the most logical sense.
I'm pro what works.
That's the best way of putting it. But here's the thing. They changed the laws on renewable projects to require them to have a proper cost-benefit analysis and community consultation. So here's the thing that people in Queensland and the rest of the country do not realise. There was a double standard for renewable energy projects compared to any other public utility project in the country. It was literally, the Labor Party literally had the laws written so that you did not have to have a cost-benefit analysis done on government-funded renewables projects. Do you realise how insane that is? But that was the law. There had to be no cost. So in other words, we were throwing hundreds of billions or tens of billions of dollars as a state at projects that had never even had a cost-benefit analysis written.
Yeah.
Right? Because of ideology, not because of the science, right? So now, the Crisafulli government is open to renewable projects, provided they pass the same stringent cost-benefit analysis and community consultation that all other projects require.
It's like the argument that I was making during the nuclear versus renewables thing.
Correct.
I said you don't need to... the Liberals shouldn't push for nuclear.
Yeah.
They should push for the unbanning of
Correct.
nuclear, and then let the free market do a proper dollar cost average to see if it works,
Absolutely.
if it makes sense.
And again, okay, so this is wordplay that young people need to understand. So in that nuclear debate, the Labor governments and the Labor politicians would come out and say, there's zero private interest in nuclear in Australia, and look at all the investment flowing into renewables. The dollars speak for themselves. That was the sales pitch.
Jason, do you think the government knows, or the ATO knows, or the accountants know what the business structure is from these Chinese cigarettes that are coming in?
Well, that's the thing. I don't think so, but they want their cut, right?
Yeah,
I wonder if there's some small Chinese businesses running small-scale nuclear reactors out of the back and selling
you want
power to
nuclear?
people. Illicit power.
Hey, I want some power.
Yeah, you want nuclear?
Yeah.
I give you a green box.
Yeah.
So you know, like on that one. So just to say, they are open to it. But so they cancelled. It was called the Pioneer Burdekin Pumped Hydro Project. That was one of the first things the Crisafulli government did when they took office. And there was all this outrage from Labor politicians. The community, there was interviews done with community members, and they were like, thank God they cancelled that project, because this was the community consultation they received. Labor members stood in front of a group of people who said, we don't want this in our area, and they said, too bad, we're doing it anyway. That was the consultation.
I know a friend of mine, his parents are affected by this.
Yep.
He went to the meeting and told me exactly that. He was there.
Correct.
There was no consultation.
Yep.
We're doing it. And we're talking about turning farmland that's currently used for agricultural purposes into solar farms.
Yeah. So the new legislation states that to even get start the beginning of an approval from the government for these projects, that you have to show, the company has to show that they have done community consultation and have essentially signed an agreement with local councils which which show that the local area will actually receive an ongoing benefit from that project. Right? Great news.
It just makes sense. It's just rationality.
It's just common sense. It's how it should be. Yeah. And it's how I think a lot of people believe the political system actually already works.
Totally.
Because it's common sense, right? They paused 4 major onshore wind farm projects. Paused, not cancelled. But they paused them to give time to do these things. Run a proper cost-benefit analysis and do community consultation. Great. If it stacks up and the community's okay with it, let's do it.
Totally.
Right? Okay. So in other words, on the renewables front, big tick. Climate change and renewables, big tick, because they are prioritising cheap, sustainable, reliable power over climate ideology. So big tick against the globalists. Youth crime, I thought, was an interesting one. It's not just a youth crime problem in this state, it's a total crime problem. But the problem is, this is where the nuance to a lot of these things come in. A lot of gangs realise that kids are essentially untouchable. So gangs recruit young kids, they get the young kids to commit the crimes, the kids get let out with a slap on the wrist because there was nothing you could do about it, but it's not to the benefit of the 15-year-old kid who does the crime. They're doing the crime, and then the proceeds of that crime are going to the adult criminals who are organising these things. I don't know if you remember this. When they brought in the adult time for adult crime laws in Queensland, they were condemned by the United Nations. Do you remember this?
I do know this.
Can you bring that? I did send up a clip. It's very short, and I think it's worth playing. I think we have played it on the show before. But essentially, the United Nations came out and was railing against Queensland, saying that, talking about the rights of these kids and et cetera, et cetera. But if you can just play this clip.
And I heard some commentary overnight from the United Nations about what we are trying to do in this state to turn around Labor's youth crime crisis. And I say to the United Nations, with the greatest of respect, this place will govern its laws. This place will determine how we keep Queenslanders safe. And this place will be accountable to Queenslanders, not United Nations boffins. That's what will happen in this place. And when I talk of human rights, I talk about the rights of someone to put their child to bed at night and know they're safe. When I talk about human rights, I talk about the right of someone to go in the morning and get in a car and go and earn a living. And when I talk of human rights, I talk about the ability for young offenders to turn their life around. They are the human rights we're focused on. On this side of the House, we stand up for Queenslanders, not unelected officials a long way from this place.
Well said.
Right? Bravo. And again, that is how I think the political, like a lot of people assume the political system worked. But all we have to do is look at places like Victoria and Sydney, where, like, look at all the stuff coming out of Chris Minns that we've covered on the show. They're literally saying, we are going to live in a multicultural society, whether you like it or not, and to make it better, we're not going to punish or deport violent offenders who are not from here, who come from cultures that do not gel with our own. We're going to remove your ability to voice your concerns about it online. Like, this is the polar opposite with what Crisafulli's doing up here. And there has been a 5% reduction in violent crimes in Queensland since he's taken office. So that is a data point which shows that we're going in the right direction. And I'm very mindful of this, you know, the victim. We always talk about like this Marxism, victim oppressor stuff all the time. And it has become pervasive through society. And the number one people that it affects is women, right? How many times have we seen women's rights stampeded by the rights of dudes who want to identify as women? Or how often...
Yes, that's kind of gone.
Well, it's going. It's going. And it is going, I believe, because of the Trump administration.
For sure, but I just wanted to... I was only thinking about this the other day. No one's willing to die on that hill anymore. And it just goes to show how weak the argument ever was. And... zooming out, you probably didn't really believe in it as much as you thought. You were probably gifted that outrage by media or politicians for control reasons.
Are you able to bring up images if I send them to you?
Yes.
Okay, because I just want to give people a reminder. Because you're exactly right. And I think one of the best examples of this, and we have covered on the show before, is the body positivity movement. It's like, you know, you're healthy at every size and fat is fabulous and all that sort of stuff. That disappeared immediately when Ozempic became available for weight loss. And all of a sudden, these fat celebrities that were pushing body positivity when it suited them were all on Ozempic because they could take a pill. Now, the reason why I've sent you some of these images through, and the reason why I said before that a lot of that stuff is going away because of the Trump administration, it's not necessarily what Trump is doing. It is because it's the opposite of what the Biden administration was doing. Here's 3 people that were high-ranking officials in the Biden administration. The first one here is Sam Brinton. So Sam Brinton is a non-binary bloke who was, he's actually an American nuclear engineer. He was tasked with the disposal of nuclear waste in the United States. Now, he did lose his job because he stole a woman's luggage at the airport. Right? Can you please go through to the next person? This is Sean Skelly, who is a trans woman identifying a former member of the Biden administration.
No, that's the lead singer of Megadeth.
Yeah. Well, Dave Mustaine would say he did it first.
Yeah.
That was the United States Assistant Secretary of Defense under Joe Biden. Can you go to the next one? This is Admiral Rachel Levine, who is a trans dude, essentially, who was the Secretary for Health of the United States Department of Health and Human Services. So the Biden administration was seeking to normalize this behavior in society, and unfortunately, for those, you might like it, you might not, Australian culture is downstream of US culture.
Sure.
We are absolutely downstream. And you were seeing this change occurring because you remove the old propaganda and you are replacing it with new propaganda, essentially. It's installing a different way of thinking. But what you said before was interesting about how quickly things are changing. And that shows you the real power is all of you people sitting in the middle of all of these debates. Because you are the silent majority. You are the 70% of real people who...
The normal people.
Normal people who don't have a strong opinion on a lot of these social issues, who are kind of just happy to go with the crowd and whatever. Like, you don't want to ruffle any feathers. You don't want anyone to think that you're trying to upset them or anything like that. You're just happy to go along to get along. you guys have all the power, but it's so important for you guys to keep a level head and not just throw your values out just because society pretends that you should. And like another example of this in recent times, and this was actually a fan submission, they wanted me to bring up the Sydney Sweeneys story. Have you heard about it?
Yeah, I was going to bring it up.
Okay, cool. Do you want to explain what's happened with Sydney Sweeney?
You do it.
Okay. So, for any of you who don't know who Sydney Sweeney is, and I doubt there's any of you who don't, she is a ridiculously hot chick with giant tits who is saving
I'm
the
actually
world.
not. I don't think she's that attractive.
Shut up, Alex.
No, no, she's attractive, but she's not like top.
Okay, so it's interesting.
She's a rig.
It's
Like,
interesting
she's
that you
an
say
absolute
that
rig.
because when she first became famous in Euphoria, which is a show by the way, I refuse to watch because from what I know about it, it's essentially a show about teenagers fucking. And with all the Epstein stuff going on at the moment, I refuse to watch a TV show based around teenagers fornicating with each other. But apparently when she first became famous on there, she was essentially called a prawn because she's a bit girl next door up here and she's a bit giant rack down here. But
she's a lot giant rack down there.
Yeah, but an interesting thing happened and a shift in culture recently where she was involved in an ad campaign for is it a jeans company?
Yeah, Eagle Jeans?
Yeah, and it was interesting when you juxtapose her ad campaign against the Jaguar ad campaign that came out last year. So let me explain. Essentially, we've gone back to the good old days of putting hot girls in ads next to products to make you want to buy the product. And when Sydney Sweeney did this ad, she has been called a Nazi propagandist because the ad has her with a play on words where essentially she's saying, I've got good genes. And the liberal media came out and said, white girl with blonde hair and blue eyes says she's got good genes, therefore she's basically Hitler. However, the stock price of that company went up 15% in a week. Because all of a sudden people have realised, America's back, we are going back, sex sells, it always has, it always will. But
it's not just sex. No, it's not just sex, because I can give you another example. It's not just sex, it's normality. Because Bud Light went from Dylan Mulvaney to Shane Gillis.
Which can we also say, the same people calling Sydney Sweeney's ad Nazi propaganda were calling Dylan Mulvaney a strong and beautiful woman.
Yeah.
And that is the same people. Like, I know you normally get upset with me generalising, but it is actually the same people.
Yeah. But it's just like people, my ex used to say this, she used to hate walking into Nike because the mannequins for the women were all fat.
Yeah.
But the male ones were ripped.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, why are women falling for this? And why has that become aspirational? But there's no fat guy ones. There's no dad bod.
Because, I think men inherently are aspirational. So we'll walk in, we'll see the ripped mannequin, we're like, if I want to wear these clothes, I need to get ripped like that. Whereas I think, unfortunately, for a lot of women who aren't really into the exercise element of activewear, if they walk in and feel normalized for being fat, then they'll still just buy the product.
I don't even think it goes that deep. I think it was probably like an accounting thing. Like, the guys aren't even going to notice, so don't spend any money on fat guy mannequins.
There would absolutely have been marketing research done on this, because you have to pay extra for all that mannequin material to get those fat broads up there to hang the clothes on.
So I don't think it's necessarily a sex sell. I think it's a shift back to normality.
So let me tell you about Jaguar. Did you hear about Jaguar's ad campaign last year?
Yeah, of course.
So
I'm
Jaguar,
a Jag guy.
Yeah.
I'm who they should be advertising to.
Well, they were. They were last year.
No, they weren't.
So they ran an ad campaign which essentially was all about transgenderism that didn't even have a car in the ad.
I have got an argument for this.
Okay.
So it was Jaguar is not producing a car this year.
Okay.
So they aren't making cars, but they have to remain a brand. And they're not closing dealerships down. So they're wanting the dealer network to sell nothing and stay as Jaguar dealers. So in a way, and this ad campaign, everyone knows about it. It was last year. It set the internet on fire because it was so gay.
Yeah, and Jaguar's sales dropped 90% since then.
No, see? That's the trick. It was always going to drop 90% because they're not producing a car.
Interesting.
Okay, so what it did was it kept them relevant far longer than any of their product placement ever would have done.
Okay.
They've got no cars to sell, but they're actually shifting. They're pivoting to a thing. So
Sydney Sweeney. They're going to bring Sydney Sweeney in for the next ad campaign when they've got cars available.
Probably, but the car will be very different. So they are going to move into hyper expensive, essentially Rolls-Royce-ish or Bentley. They're going to play in that market where they can actually make some money.
Yep.
Because you can't make money selling normal cars anymore.
And do you know what's interesting when you really analyze it? I believe that their similar to the Bud Light thing with Dylan Mulvaney, these are companies that thought the social climate had shifted to a point where they were going to be able to win and maintain a new client base or clientele. Like Bud Light, they knew they already had the footy bro market and the frat boy market down. So they were like, let's bring all of these fags in because, you know, being LGBTIQA plus whatever is in vogue now, and we believe that there's going to be more and more of those people moving into the future. So that's an untapped market that is alienated by our typical frat boy marketing. So they had a go at obtaining a new market, not realizing it would be at the expense of their existing market.
They realized. They knew. I genuinely think they knew. And I think that the guys at the very top echelons they don't care the damage that it's going to do to their own brand because it's irrelevant to them.
Yep.
They were trying to push an agenda to dismantle civilization.
So this is interesting though, because from the corporate, I agree with you in regards to the way that government was being run and the way that probably these high-level hedge funds were being run, because Larry Fink from BlackRock has talked about it, about literally engineering social change.
Yeah.
So
and
a lot of it is
that's where the money comes from.
That's right. A lot of it's being controlled via that.
I sold a car to a guy that works in ESG compliance in Australia.
Yeah, wow.
And he goes, oh, my work's dried up a little bit now.
Yeah.
I also worked for...
the work's dried up just like the pussies of all the men in the country.
Yeah, but it's bigger than... like, and that's where these entities should just stay out of it and let's make the market the market.
Well, yeah, but
don't fuck with the market.
Can we also just make the point, all of these things that we've just discussed, this is social engineering. So when you have all these feelings about things being a certain way, it's engineered into your brain. If you went 10 years ago, and like I've covered this on the show before, but I think it's really apparent. Back in, it would have been longer. It would have been 15, maybe even 20 years ago now. During the War on Terror period, before we realized weapons of mass destruction didn't exist, we were constantly bombarded with anti-Muslim propaganda, constantly. Shout out to the Muslim brothers out there. You ain't all bad, right? And one of the things that they spoke about a lot, and it wasn't just with Muslims, but with other cultures, was the barbarism of these cultures, which essentially want to remove women's pleasure organs from when they're born. So sort of like the female circumcision, but they just nip your clit off instead, right? Barbaric, disgusting stuff. So I've lived long enough to have the Western society that I grew up in go from saying that cutting a girl's clit off is barbarism to cutting a young boy's dick off because he thinks he's a girl now is the right thing to do, the just thing to do, right? Yeah. That is a massive cultural flip in only 20 years.
Yeah.
But again, this is the hopeful segment.
Sydney Sweeney got us out of it.
Yeah. Like, thank God for Sydney Sweeney's great tits. Thank God. She will save the world. Yeah. And I've said on the show before too, that I think that young testosterone-fueled men will actually save the world, because out of everyone in society, they're the most likely to tell authority figures to go fuck themselves, whether they're right or wrong.
I just want to go to that programming thing. Obviously, Happy Gilmore 2 came out. I enjoyed it. I watched the movie. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was going to suck, but it was. I had a lot of fun. I thought it was good. And some of the young people in the gym were talking about how much they like Adam Sandler, And I was like, oh, do you like his early stuff? Oh, yeah, we do. I'm like, oh, have you heard Medium Pace? The song Medium Pace from his album. No, I haven't. So I sent it around. The girls were mortified. And it made me think of something. It sort of... and I said it to them today. They didn't like it.
Yep.
I said... It was different in the 90s and the noughties because we weren't afraid to say anything.
Yeah.
You guys now think words are hurtful, violent, and they're not. Because, like, I'm a product of... Like, I survived it. I'm not dead. You know?
You also aren't a violent person. So just because you heard words that they would consider violent these days, it's never made you a violent person.
And one of the guys, he didn't copy. He said, no, I just don't find it funny. I'm like, I know
because
that
you're not
it makes
funny,
you...
I
know that it makes you uncomfortable. I can see, I say stuff on purpose to get a reaction out of them because I know it's like, it's just, And what I wanted to say to her is like, that's not because you don't think it's funny. It's that, because I actually cited an example. He got me onto something that is medium pace level, but it's just something that he'd grown up with that was funny. I've only just got to it and I find it hilarious.
So how old's this person?
He's 25.
Okay,
He's 25.
so perfect age.
But what I said to him was, you've been programmed to not like it.
Correct.
That's not you. You have been programmed by society to not like it.
Correct. And on that programming front, and this will get into our next subject of me sucking off David Crisafulli, I've just sent you another article which you can bring up later. So I want to talk about, where are we? Okay, the voice to Parliament. So, one of the things which has been greatly concerning to people in the red pill community like us is
Sorry, I just got a text.
Yeah?
One of my cars just went through auction, and I just made $7,000.
Oh, shalom! Shalom. So, we had the voice to Parliament referendum.
I text the auctioneer, coffee and sausage rolls on me, bro.
Yay! Nice, congratulations. But yeah, we had the voice to Parliament referendum a few years ago, and it was a resounding no. But it was no more resounding than in the state of Queensland. And since then, other states, like New South Wales and Victoria, have basically just gone along and said, we're going to do it anyway, because we feel we know better than the people that we apparently represent. In Queensland, Labor was going to do the same thing. But when David Crisafulli's government took office, they binned Labor's, in quotes, Path to Treaty in line with what Queenslanders wanted. 70% of Queenslanders voted no. Yep. They thought that was it. That's why you go to a referendum. It's done. The people have spoken. So, he has binned the Path to Treaty. And again, this is one of those things that for young people, me even saying this is a positive thing, there's parts of your body going, oh, you're disgusting, you racist, you bigot. Like, all of those things you've been programmed to feel. Here's the thing, guys. The only reason why we are programmed to have this white guilt complex about Indigenous Australians in this country is because they leverage that guilty feeling that you've got to essentially profiteer at your expense. So you will accept a lower standard of living so that their mates who have set up business in the Aboriginal industry, which it is an industry in this country.
I have a friend that works in it, so she reports to me all the time.
Yep, and they can continue.
It's an absolute scam, and she works in it.
Yep, and they can continue to profiteer off your tax dollars, which do nothing to help the Aboriginal people. They do nothing. And if you actually speak to Aboriginal people, the majority of them don't agree with this shit either, because they just want to be treated as Australians like the rest of us, alright? So, he has gone in line with what the people voted for, but it's also against, because it's interesting, we always talk about Australia's colonial past when it comes to Indigenous or First Nations people, but all these Indigenous treaty things are happening all around the world all at the same time. This is a globalist movement, which is essentially a way of them stealing land from you, because you will end up like, I believe one of the biggest psyops we experienced over the last 5 years is acknowledging the traditional owners of the area that you live in, because that only had one logical conclusion, which was voice to Parliament gets through. Oh, all you guys have been acknowledging that that's not your land, that's our land. Okay, well, you can live on it, you just have to pay us tax for it.
Mark Norman said it last night.
Oh, really?
Like, he goes, you acknowledge it, the land acknowledgement. That's interesting. You're going to acknowledge it, but you're not going to give it back.
Yep, exactly right. And again,
it's like someone stealing your bike. I'm going to keep riding it, but just so you know that I'm telling you I stole it.
Yeah, and every time I ride the bike, I'm going to acknowledge that you used to own it, but now I own it.
Yeah.
So again, he has pushed back against the globalist agenda and done the right thing based on what Queenslanders asked for. Another one, we mentioned it before, transitioning minors. That's the article I just sent you through. It was a press release, if you can bring that up. He announced very shortly after taking office an inquiry into gender-affirming care. Now again...
you just sent it.
I just sent it. It was the last thing I sent you. So again, this is not a ban on gender-affirming care. It is an inquiry into gender-affirming care. So I just want to quickly read this part for you. Just scroll down slightly. So it's an independent review of Stage 1 and Stage 2 hormone therapies in Queensland's public paediatrics gender services. On the 28th of January 2025, the Queensland Government announced an independent review led by Professor Ruth Vine with the support of a panel of expert reviewers. The review will consider the evidence and ethical considerations and provide policy advice to the Queensland Government regarding the use of puberty suppression, Stage 1, and gender-affirming, Stage 2, hormones for children and adolescents with gender dysphoria in Queensland's public health system. The reviewers will provide a final report to the Director-General of Queensland Health by the 30th of November 2025. And it's got more information down there. Now, we don't need to go into it, but here's the key point. Just like the renewable subject we covered earlier, these gender-affirming therapies were approved in Queensland and Australia with no evidence based off ideology. Exactly the same way as they were approved in other markets all around the world who have backflipped on them once the evidence has actually come to light.
Now, I got this wrong. So years ago when we were talking about it on this show, this was an American construct. And I said on this show to Jason, that's crazy. It's an American overcorrection.
It'll never catch on here.
It's not coming here. Yeah. And then I've read it with my own eyes. We've read it here on the show where that stuff was put into state school systems.
Mm-hmm.
It's written on, there's government websites that have all that information there. I was wrong.
I've spoken to kindy workers which have told me that the government has said for them to receive childcare subsidy funding, they must have LGBTQIA+ paraphernalia clearly visible in the classrooms at all times.
Yeah.
And the one I spoke to was like, I disagree with it. So I've got it available. If a kid asks me about it, I will show it.
Isn't a Barbie and a Ken doll like non-binary?
Well, yeah, because they both don't have any actual
no
bits.
junk.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're eunuchs.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, okay, but like
yo.
But again, I want for the young people to shout it again from the back, and I don't like the whole thing like preaching to the young people. But honestly, what's so important is Queensland saved itself by voting in David Crisafulli. So you need to understand, Queensland is seen as like the Florida of Australia. We're like the redneck backwater state, which is, so behind, and we have no culture, and like that's all the criticisms that come from those fag states down south, particularly Victoria. But the reality is, out of the last 40 years of this state, I'm pretty sure Labor has run it for about 35 of those years. So it's been a Labor-run state this whole time. So you can't claim that we've gone right-wing just because we voted in the LNP. But what I would say is that Queenslanders have typically voted along the lines of rational common sense. And even Labor parties of old used to actually be rational and have some common sense, and that's why they had such support.
I'll also say this too. I went into the city last night. I took the ferry. I went to South Bank. I was a bit early, so I went for a nice walk through South Bank. It was clean. It was safe. I didn't see any homeless. Now, I think they're across the river in the city, but it was a really nice place to be on a Thursday night.
Yep.
I took a photo. Did you see my photo on Instagram of the the new casino and the lights on the water? Yep. It was really, really, really beautiful. And it was like the first time I'd felt, because, I've bagged Australia a lot lately, and we have done this entire show. But I was really thankful about Brisbane in particular last night. It was really nice. And we can have nice things.
Absolutely.
We just have to use our brains, and we just have to don't get run by emotion, don't get run by ideology. Just do real, normal things. It's not that hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like
you haven't talked about the biggest one though.
Well, I've got more. So I've got COVID. COVID's next.
Yeah.
So the majority of vaccine mandates were already gone when he took office, but David Crisafulli removed the final ones, which were aged care, and I think there were still some health workers that required the COVID mandates.
Yep.
And literally made a speech in Parliament talking about how we keep saying that we have a problem with service workers, and we need to remove all impediments from their ability to come back and actually serve the state.
Yeah.
But the big one, now, I haven't been able to corroborate this. I've only got one piece of evidence, which is Malcolm Roberts thanking David Crisafulli for it in Parliament, which I've actually emailed him about to see if I can get some evidence to actually present on the show. Now, live read...
Crisafulli or...
No, Malcolm Roberts, because he mentioned it in Parliament. But apparently, not confirmed yet, but Malcolm Roberts said that the Crisafulli government has actually reversed the Queensland Health decision to destroy the COVAX trial data. So again, for most of you know what I'm talking about, but what COVAX was, during the pandemic, the Queensland government pledged $20 million to run this thing called the COVAX trial. It was the most intensive. They've taken blood sample, like 100,000 blood samples from about 10,000 different... Maybe I think it was more than 10,000. Might have been 40,000 people, something like that. Anyway, a significant number of people. They took blood samples before getting the COVID vaccines, after, and at regular intervals over a certain period of time. And it was the first of its kind in the world, leading the way, and it was like the cutting edge science to show what the ultimate effects of these vaccines were over time. And that came out in 2021 when the vaccine rollout started. And then in 2023, the Queensland government, under Labor at the time, quietly withdrew all funding from the COVAX research and ceased any further blood samples to be taken.
Isn't it funny that this is literally the only thing they've cut costs to?
Like absolutely.
Ever.
Absolutely.
Do you know what? They probably employed a staff of 800 people and given them $2 billion to tell them to cut the funding.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, obviously the COVAX trial wasn't run by the CFMEU, and we'll be getting to them shortly.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so in 2023, they pulled all the funding. They said no more samples to be taken, and they basically decided that they were not going to release the results of those findings. And as we've covered many times on the show, I'm sure it's because there was so much good news about the vaccines that they decided to torch $20 million worth of taxpayer money and all the only evidence which could have really shown the actual effects of these vaccines. Anyway, apparently, according to Malcolm Roberts this week, David Crisafulli's government has reversed the decision to destroy the trial data. So we will wait and see more on that. But that is, again, that's huge. Because if we're talking about all these lawsuits and stuff like that that are going to follow up against Big Pharma and the governments for what they did, that's the evidence that you require for all of these court cases to go through. So that's a big deal. He has announced an inquiry into the CFMEU. Now, I didn't really want to harp on this one too much because it could just be seen as a political hit job because, as we've covered on the show, CFMEU, heavily linked with the Labor Party. They actually help fund the Labor Party. Labor Party gives them kickbacks back in the way of approving these projects, which always go over budget, and you have to be a CFMEU worker to work at all these projects. It's a giant, again, Mafioso style.
Yeah, I just want to explain it real quick. So, Labor gets in government. They approve a massive infrastructure build. CFMEU gets that contract. CFMEU wind it out and as high up as they ever can, knowing full well Labor's going to absolutely approve any additional spending.
So it's like a cost blowout?
Because the money goes back through the CFMEU, taxpayers to CFMEU, then from CFMEU right back to Labor.
Yeah.
The CFMEU is exempt from any limits on political donations.
Correct.
So it's essentially just money laundering.
So a percentage of every CFMEU member's membership fees gets paid directly to the Labor Party every single year. So again, it's a giant conflict of interest. We all know it. So Crisafulli has announced an inquiry into the CFMEU, but particularly because of their aggressive standover tactics they use to basically extort money out of the government and essentially, again, gang-style activities. Now, the reason why I didn't want to go into it too much is because you could just accuse Crisafulli of trying to remove funding from his political enemies. Okay? I cop that.
Yep, cop that.
But what I will say is this. It is clear that the cost of building infrastructure has blown out because of what the CFMEU is doing. It's very clear. So at the very least, this should lead to Queensland being able to get projects built for much cheaper than what they were being built for in the past, which is a net win for the Queensland taxpayer. We will get more infrastructure for less money. That's a good thing for us too. All right. So those are just a few things.
So something I noticed about all those, he's not poo-pooing everything.
No.
So what most politicians do, especially when they've come out of they're from the opposing party and they're in the seat now, you just undo everything.
Yeah.
That's not what he's done.
No.
He's like, okay, we're going to review this. All right, we're going to hold and we're going to do a thing on this and we're going to actually have a proper look at this and we're going to allow this thing to happen. That's all really normal, smart things. If you run a business, that's how you do it.
Exactly. It's evidence-based governance.
Yeah, but props to Crisafulli.
Yeah, and like just consider like all of those subjects that I just rattled off. Like, let me just go to the list again. So, and I'm going to do the key ones which all fit together. Transitioning minors, COVID, renewable energy, youth crime. Every single one of those things was going in the wrong direction, not because of evidence, but because of ideology.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that I want to say to particularly our Victorian listeners. You guys have the power to do this too. So Queensland voted in its best interest. Queenslanders said, I am not willing to destroy my quality of life for some perceived, guilt-ridden, bullshit propagandized reason. I'm going to vote in my best interest. And unfortunately, I think Victoria's, and again, I'm going to say you are unique because the Liberal Party is completely inept down there. Victoria actually got a One Nation senator into the Senate, which is huge, right? When you consider how far left Victoria actually is. But I want to appeal to Victorians and obviously New South Welshmen as well. You have to get involved. You have to get politically activated. Like, the only reason why that COVAX trial data isn't being destroyed is because there was a petition started by a concerned Queenslander, that got enough signatures to bring it to the statewide stage and actually put political pressure on this government to do the right thing. It's only because people are politically active that that's even going to happen.
And don't forget, we've had things like this happen and they've just been kiboshed. Like,
absolutely.
They didn't even make it to... Or they do that thing, we'll do the reading at 11 p.m. on Friday night on New Year's Eve or something like that.
And there's no one in there and nothing ever happens with it. But I also want to say too, like another good example of this was vaccine mandates. The only reason why vaccine mandates went away was because enough people said no. And enough people went against the narrative. And again, remember those days. The programming was strong. The psyoping was strong. The social pressure was high. But enough people said, no, we're not doing that anymore. So Victorians, I implore you, get involved. And you need to go back to essentially traditional values on how societies are supposed to be run. And the traditional values are this. You have to work to make your living in the world. We all have to. Society does not function if you are having your way paid by someone else.
Totally.
So you have to be willing to work for the society that you want. So that's number one. But when you're willing to work for the society that you want, that gives you agency. So you actually are then allowed to make your own decisions that are in your best interests. Yeah. If your way is being paid for by someone else, then you have to do what they say. I used the example on the show last week about my kids. My kids are young and don't know anything. They can't pay their way through the world. So while they're under my roof being paid for by me, they will listen to what I say and they'll do as they are told. Right? That's what the government is seeking to do to you. So when you look at things like housing, energy prices, cost of living, all of those things, all of the buzzwords that the government comes out and says, we're doing this to help you, they're not. They are making you dependent on them. Yeah. So therefore, the only way for you to vote in your best interest, if you can't afford to fund your life unless the government gives you a handout, you are forced to vote for the person who promises to give you the most money. That's the scam. It's not about doing what's right for you.
You're being a stripper and you're voting for your coke dealer.
Exactly. Yeah, right? It's not about what's right for you. It's about their political careers. And it's the easiest game in the world to see from the outside if you actually take a step back and look at it. But like, again, COVID was the perfect example. People who had taken personal agency over their finances had options when the mandates came around. People who didn't take personal agency over their finances had to take the vaccine to go to work.
Yeah.
Right? Give yourself options. Be willing to work. And stop feeling guilty for advocating for yourself.
Yeah, totally.
Right? If you're a white Australian...
That was another thing my ex used to say that I really liked, is like, all these changes were coming in. You can't do this, you can't do that. And she would say, why can't I enjoy, like, the fruits of this world?
Absolutely.
Like, why can't I have the nice things?
Yep.
Why do I have to give up because stuff that happened before?
Why does China get to burn our coal for cheap electricity? Meanwhile, I have to pay through the roof because of climate change, right? Yeah. You can ask those questions because the PSYOP is don't ask questions. That's the PSYOP. Because if you don't ask questions, they get to keep fucking you. It's essentially where it comes down to.
I have to go. I'll bounce like 3
All right.
levels.
Enough people in Queensland asked enough questions. We're working together as a state. But Victoria and New South Wales, you can do it too. Power to the people. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next week.
See ya.